Welcome to the Retirement Evolved podcast with certified financial fiduciary Adam Bruno.
And we are back for one more week. I'm Adam Bruno, and of course with me as always is the world's greatest executive, Lauren Trolson.
Hi, everyone.
Wow, just a hi everyone today?
No, how are you? Because it was
Yeah, rhetorical questions don't really work well on a podcast. Let's get right into it, though. So let's talk about this week in history. 1872, Yellowstone National Park was established in March. But Yellowstone, the TV drama, will turn 5 this year. So that's a little bit younger.
Yeah, great show. Have you seen it?
I love it. A lot of controversy with Kevin Costner now, though, apparently, or something, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
Big surprise there. I happen to think he's a giant diva, but that's okay. 1876, Alexander Graham Bell patents the telephone.
Wow.
Do you know how you're supposed to answer the phone? By saying ahoy.
Really?
That's the way that the phone's meant to be answered.
Wow.
Ahoy. Yeah, I didn't know that either. Okay, 1969, Pontiac Firebird Trans Am was released. Did you ever drive one of those?
No, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't either. My friend had one when we used to cut out of high school a little bit.
Was it
early,
yellow?
It was not. It was like this teal blue color.
Yeah.
It wasn't manly at all. Not that there's anything wrong with teal blue. I'm just,
Yeah.
you think like Firebird, like red, black.
Yeah, I would think red, definitely.
Yeah. So, that's what's in history today, and why don't you do your say what
My
thing?
say what?
Because I'm sure you got a few tidbits there.
Mm-hmm. The Buffalo Bills safety, Jordan Poyer, joined the team in 2017, but is now a pending free agent. He says he would love to go to a state that doesn't take half of my money. In 2022, New York had the highest tax burden in the country at 12.75%.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that tax rate is that. What do they do with the money? And remember, I'm from Niagara Falls. I'm from Buffalo. And this whole tax thing, it drives me nuts. A lot of our families are from upstate New York as well that we serve. And it just seems like it's crazy. But I will say this, Jordan Poyer, bye-bye. Because, as I recall, he wants all this money. He wants this big bag of money, right? And then he just lets somebody waltz in on the divisional round, waltz right into the end zone. I mean, he played horrible. He didn't even show up for the game. Anyway, Him, Tremaine Edmonds, if it were me, bye.
Tell him how you really feel, Adam.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's our say what for today. We are definitely going to talk about what most near retirees, that the retirees haven't met with a retirement professional and that it could cost them. And we have a couple questions about what to ask the right retirement professional. We should probably preface that with saying that this show is about retirement and things going on in the country right now. And we try to make it fun and make it relatable for all of our families that are in retirement. And that's why we do this show is for our families. So, yes, I think it's very important to talk about some of those questions. Why don't you fire away with one of them? Ooh, well, one of the article's highlights is that more than 2/3 of near retirees haven't met with a financial professional, and that could be hurting their confidence when it comes to having enough for retirement.
Right. So we're talking about near retirees, meaning people that are getting ready to retire.
Correct.
Right? And as far as the confidence part, I don't know if it necessarily hurts their confidence. I would say that sometimes some of these families, as they're getting near retirement, just are overly confident. And
they're just happy to retire.
They're happy to retire. They think I've got, a couple $1,000,000. I'm going to be just fine. And there's all these obstacles and challenges that await them that they don't even know that they don't know about. So I would agree with that statement and that question. But the reality is it's really hard to get someone to understand the importance of professional advice before they do something that ends up hurting them, right? I mean, that's when we don't go to the doctor preventatively. Well, I do. I know you do as well. But a lot of people, they're so stubborn. They're not going to the doctor until the bone's sticking out, right? So I would compare it to that situation, I think.
Absolutely. So some of the questions to ask, what does your financial strategy include? Which includes legal advice, tax advice, health insurance advice. Can you describe your financial planning process? That would be another one. This is a big one. How do you help your clients? You can also ask how they can help you work towards a certain goals like debt payoff or planning for retirement.
Right. And I want to just step in there on one of these. The problem is always going to arise that a lot of the families that are accumulating their wealth, right, they end up going to a retail organization like an Edward Jones, a Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, or maybe even their bank, Bank of America, Chase, whatever it might be. And any of those professionals, air quotes, when they ask about taxes or they ask about, estate planning, all of the things that you should be asking, you're going to hear, well, that's not what we do here, right? Go talk to an estate planning attorney, go talk to a CPA. And that makes it very difficult because then you have to try and get all of those individuals and those professionals to communicate together on your behalf. So I am not surprised at all that's one of the questions that's on there. And it's absolutely what you should be asking. What you shouldn't do is feel overwhelmed and think, well, there's not organizations that do that just because your person at Chase or your person at Edward Jones doesn't do it. Our organization here, what you would see here is everybody working together, 2 estate planning attorneys, 2 CPAs, 2 Medicare specialists, because it's so important. And I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it as long as people are listening. Even if we miss so many little opportunities. And if we miss enough little opportunities, that's going to help us miss a big opportunity. You're going to miss something big down the road, right?
Absolutely. Yes. This is a big one for us when we have people come in and we first meet them. How do you get paid?
Boy, if there was one question in the industry right now that is begging to be asked, that's the question, because, there's so many different types of individuals that are financial planners and financial professionals. And how angry I get when somebody says, oh, financial advisor. I don't like that term. I don't like the term financial advisor. I prefer the term private wealth manager because we are paid based on our clients' needs as far as what they may need. So in our case, right, we charge a flat fee for our services, a percentage every year. And that could range from 0.25% all the way up to, or 0.25 all the way up to 1.5, depending on the individual. But we're also paid, from insurance carriers directly. If our families end up using the insurance world at all, we're paid a commission, which comes out of the insurance company's pocket, not theirs. So that's how most people are paid, one way or the other. The problem occurs when you have an advisor that you go to and they are trying to get you into an insurance product, and you notice that they always use the same insurance company, because the more insurance products that they put with that company, the higher their commission is, right? So that's why people don't talk about multi-year guaranteed annuities, because the commissions are 1%. They're minimal. But when you look at a 3-year, 5% guaranteed rate of return, that's pretty good for families that just want something, want some compounding interest. But that's not what they're told about, because the commissions aren't high enough. Or there might be another company out there. Here's a great example. Here, Lauren, you see us scrambling all the time because we don't ever just use one company. It's about who's got the best rates right now. And you don't get that from most advisor firms because they get so used to telling the same story and they stick with the same company, and it's not always in your best interest, right?
Right. Absolutely. I like this one. What is your responsiveness? How long will it take you to email me back? I like that because I try to be as on the ball as I can about getting back with people, getting back in touch with people. If somebody calls, we return their call as soon as possible, whether it's even that night. Sometimes it just depends on the day.
Well, it's that day too. I mean, if even on the weekend, sometimes we're back to them that day. And the reality of the situation is, because we strategically choose who we want to work with, and we're not greedy, and we don't take everybody, right? We don't just try and make a buck here.
Right.
But when you go to another organization, that's ideally what it is all about, trying to get as many assets as they can because they're charging a fee, or trying to sell as many products as they can because they get a commission. That's the reality. That's the world that we live in. And to your point, when we came up with this idea, we wanted everything to be about the evolution of this industry. That's why it's called Evolution Retirement Services, Evolution Wealth Management. So I think part of the reason our response is so great is that we strategically design and choose families so that we can provide that level of service where we get back to them the same day. A text message. I got a text message this weekend. I was back to her that same day. It just depends on who you're dealing with. But the fact that you should ask that question, I wholeheartedly agree with, because that is a very, very good question to ask.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those are just some questions that for you guys that are retiring soon or near retirement, something to ask if you are going to go in and meet with somebody. I was reading also the best states to retire in 2023. Best states for minimizing taxes in retirement: Alaska, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Nevada, South Dakota, and Wyoming.
Wyoming.
And
Alaska too. Alaska was ahead of Florida?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, nobody lives there. That's why. They're probably paying you to go live there.
And then top states favored by retirees would be Maine, Florida, West Virginia, Vermont, Montana, and Delaware.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of all over the board there.
Well, you got to think about it from a tax perspective, right? In Florida, we don't have a state income tax, so that's definitely helpful. You got me thinking about one of those questions. I think I want to add to that. There should be another one that you ask anybody that you meet with. And I think it has something to do with how often you get to sit down with that person. A lot of the times I'll meet families and I'll talk to them about, well, how was your last meeting with your financial advisor? And they'll say, well, we only meet about once a year. It's crucial if you're going to be goal-based in retirement. And we've talked about the importance of that. If you're going to be goal-oriented and vision-oriented, you have to have a vision for that particular year. And at least every quarter, you have to be meeting to make sure that the goals are meeting that vision for the year. It could be as simple as, we wanted to do a 20-day cruise from Alaska to California, whatever it might be, right? Well, what are we doing from quarter to quarter to ensure that goal is met? That's very, very important. And I don't think there's enough attention paid to goal planning and vision planning for the year. It's just, I can't say it enough. It's so important in retirement because we don't know how long we have, and nobody wants to admit that, but that's the truth.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. What we should do right now? We should pause and, we should do company identification at this point. Obviously, we are Evolution Retirement Services, Evolution Wealth Management. If you want more information or if you have questions that we may have already answered or some that we didn't ask, certainly reach out to us. It's taxfreefortmyers.com, FORTMYERS, taxfreefortmyers.com. There's a copy of my book on there as well. They Lied, The Real Cost of Your Retirement. You can download that absolutely free. That's why it's there. It's there to be a resource for you. There's also articles that I've done for Kiplinger over the last year, and you have a chance to reach out to us. You can reach out to us via email if you don't want to call us too. That's fine. We have had tons of emails over the last few weeks, so feel free to reach out via email. Just keep in mind that there's no sales pressure. This isn't what that is. What we try to do is obviously help as many people as we can, and while we're busy helping as many people as we can, we always identify 2 or 3 families that we can work directly with and really bring them value. So there's no sales pressure or anything like that. I really just want everybody to have a resource that they can use and they can get unbiased information from. Anything to add there?
No, I thought that was really nice. Actually.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Good job.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, you run the show, so I think everybody knows that.
I don't know. That's, I do my best. I'll take that. It's a win. Yeah, so those are definitely some great questions, and I think that last one that you touched on was really, really something. Absolutely. How often do you meet with somebody? It's so important.
It always goes to the wayside too. We always focus so much on the numbers and the returns, and what does it matter if there isn't a plan to spend the returns or a tax plan to make sure we're avoiding taxes as much as possible on those returns? And it's just like I always say, right, Lauren, what if you have a 30% return in your investments? That's not going to change your lifestyle right now. But if you look and there's a 30% loss, that could significantly impact your lifestyle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On average, I just saw this from the Fortune article that we were referencing above. On average, male respondents currently have $367,000 saved for retirement. Females have $257,000. A little bit of a
discrepancy. You know why, right? Because we haven't reached the point in this country where females are on equal footing in the workplace. And it's awful. Absolutely. I'm sorry. It is awful. I mean, if you're going to be out there doing the same job, the job should dictate what you get paid, not the gender. not what's between
Absolutely.
your
The
legs.
job
right?
and how you do it.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just really what it comes down to. And we're not all this woke culture and all this stuff, but the reality is that if there's somebody who's going to do a job like you, Lauren, if you're going to absolutely crush it in this business, I fully expect you to get paid your worth. And that's the funny thing about our business, right? Our business recognizes that, and you're not going to make less money because you do, just because you're a woman and you do just as much production as a man does, right? So that's part of the reason why I can't deal with corporate America. I just, it just drives me crazy.
It is. It's wild. On average, also, male respondents believe that they'll retire at age 70, while female respondents believe they'll retire at 67.
Well, that's interesting,
right?
That's very interesting. I love this because we still have this old school mentality where we think we're going to work forever and never retire. And the reality is, with the resources that we have available to us in today's day and age and the investment capabilities, it just seems like people should be a little bit more, optimistic that retirement could actually come a little bit earlier. But even females there are saying, 67, that's not 65. That's 2 years longer than most people, right? I just don't, I don't know if I agree with that mentality. Now, my mentality, we all know this, is completely different. I feel like I'm not working at all when I'm in the office. I don't feel like this is work. I get to do everything I love and I'm passionate about. I get to do in this business. I get to teach, I get to help, I get to, run numbers. I get to, donate to charity. I get to do all these different things. So, what I always say when everybody asks when I'm going to retire. Well, it's when you find me behind my desk one day. I mean, I don't feel like I'm working. Now that could change, but I have no doubt that if I wanted to, I could probably retire in another 5 to 10 years if I really wanted to, but I don't, but and in 5 to 10 years, I'll be 51 in 10 years. Holy cow. Where's the time go? Okay. We're not going down that road. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go on.
No, that's okay. It is March. Well, March is National Credit Education Month. Here are some ways to observe it. 1, learn your credit score. Correct any errors in your credit report and calculate the interest of a high dollar item you want to help you decide if you want to charge it, save up, pay cash for it, or skip it altogether.
Yeah, I just have to say this, and I don't mean to sound condescending, but if you live in today's world and you don't know your credit score and you haven't looked at your credit reports, I mean, shame on you, right? It's just so accessible. It doesn't even cost any money to do that right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it could seriously be impacting your lifestyle. So even though sometimes we don't want to look, and I know some people say, I don't even want to know, right? But the reality is you really need to look and do your due diligence, because I was looking at mine a couple of weeks ago. I have things on there that have no business being on there anymore. And you have to do inquiries, and you can do it right from your phone now. You don't even have to write letters anymore. You can just click the button and say dispute, right? Yeah. So just this idea of absolutely make sure your credit is what it should be, because that's a reflection of you and how hard you've worked. You have every right to have a fully disclosed credit report that is correct, not filled with inaccuracies.
When does credit, if you do have something, on your credit report that is something they drop off eventually, correct? Isn't it like 7 years or something like that?
I think it's like 5 years for inquiries, like if you're inquiring for credit or if you're trying to run an application. But the reality is the credit bureaus have a certain amount of time to respond to disputes. And then if they don't respond, obviously it drops off and there's all that different type of stuff. But, for me, if it was me, I'd just keep disputing if something won't fall off.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just because they only have so much time to respond. And then when they don't respond finally, or they don't have the accuracy on there, and if it is something that's truly incorrect, when they go to respond, they'll see that it's incorrect finally, and they'll take care of it. That's the reality.
Right. We touched on this a little bit on our last podcast about the U.S. national debt is over $31.5 trillion. If you divide up our total unfunded liabilities among all U.S. citizens, we would pay over $543,000.
Wow. I thought for whatever reason this week, I was thinking that it was in the 700,000 range. I don't know why. So one more time, what was the final number that everybody owes?
543,000.
So on top of my debt, I have an additional 543,000 to add to that.
Correct.
Well, maybe that's why I was thinking, the 700,000 number, but no, I just, I obviously carry my mortgage and all that stuff. And, why would you not carry a mortgage at this point when 2 years ago we were paying 2.25% for a mortgage? Boy, it's a sad state of affairs in Sleepy Joe's town, isn't it?
Oh man.
Listen, I just have to say it. I mean, if we don't get a cap on this thing, like, what does the world think is going to happen? I mean, common sense needs to prevail here. He's trying to eliminate a debt ceiling so that we can go even more in debt. It's unbelievable. The difference of what they actually take in versus what they spend right now is in the billions already. So, and it's not in the plus billions, it's in the minus billions, right? So now you add in 31 trillion and then you want to keep spending more money. Where is it coming from? Like, what are we doing?
Got his own print shop.
It's well, we do, because we're the reserve currency of the world, so we can print as much money as we want. But that's why we're all walking around with $100 bills that say Federal Reserve note on them, right? It's basically we're paying each other with IOUs. It's terrible. I just don't understand how we can become so fiscally irresponsible in this country. And this is the best that we can do. This is who we have to vote for. I mean, it's ridiculous. And nobody talks about that, right? Because that's not what gets the votes. They're all talking about free healthcare and this and that and free this and free. Listen, I said it before. I have no problem. Make everybody pay 15%. Whatever they make everybody pay 15% and watch how much it turns things around in this country. It's ridiculous, and it's gone to ridiculous lengths. This whole idea of taxing the higher income earners, the corporations more, that's not the answer. Where is the common sense here?
It's uncommon.
It is uncommon. It's terrible. I think about somebody only makes, $40,000 a year. Even if they're paying 10%, they're paying $4,000 that year in taxes, right?
Yeah.
Come on, $4,000. Those same people are going to Starbucks every other day and spending $10-20 a day on Starbucks.
Absolutely. And with rent prices right now, because I mean, at $40,000, I don't know where you can qualify to even, buy a home at that point. So if you're paying rent or you have a lease, on top of that, it's crazy. How do you afford that lifestyle? It
is insane. The insanity really occurs when we don't put the priorities first here, right? We have to have a way for everybody to be able to pay their taxes. Everybody needs to pay something. You can't keep giving away everything. It just isn't going to work. And that's the bottom line. And if I was a politician, I'd say the same thing. Everybody's got to pay taxes, people. I know you're probably not going to vote for me, but this is the reality. What's this going to look like in 10 years? We saw what the last 10 years looked like. What's it going to look like now?
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
Absolutely. And with COVID, if something like that happens again, it's just
You mean when something like that happens?
Yeah,
again?
when something happens. Like
you can't prevent. It's always been. We've come so close so many times with all these different infectious diseases, right? The swine flu, all this stuff, bird flu. The fact that it finally happened. However you believe that it happened, but it did happen, and it is still happening. This idea of this COVID. Yes, obviously. It's the deaths and all this stuff that people say, oh, well, are the deaths really real? It doesn't matter what the numbers say. We were in the middle of a pandemic. A pandemic is going to happen eventually. And it's when is it going to happen again? We've already seen it happen once now. So it's unbelievable when you think about how many people actually did lose their lives and the change that we all went through with this, whether you want to believe or not believe. But the reality is, we're one pandemic away from everything going to hell again. We barely got through this one fiscally, right?
Yeah. Well, history repeats itself
all the time, all the time. The other thing that I've got a little something here, when we talk about this idea of everybody being $543,000 in debt, it's kind of like this fun little concept, right? It's fun to say, well, if that means everybody's responsible for this much, well, they really are responsible for that much because it's our debt as a country. So even though you might be listening and saying, well, I didn't take out, but it doesn't matter. That debt is going to have to be paid. Now, are we going to keep going with this? Is it going to end up being everybody's at $1 million now? Because that $543,000 number, I'd love to see how long that actually took to amass. Right. I bet Absolutely. You a big portion of that came in the last 10 years.
100%. Yeah.
Right. You gotta think that, it's terrible. It's unbelievable. Oh, well, anyway. Okay. So once again, we are Evolution Retirement Services, Evolution Wealth Management. You are listening to Adam Bruno and Lauren Trolson, and we are here to help. So if you have questions, if you have comments, Lauren, there was a question from last week, wasn't there? I thought there was a pretty good one last week about the Secure Act. I think, I know what it was. People were asking about, their kids and their grandkids. Ironically enough, this is still, no matter who you are, how much money you have, you still worry about your family. The reality is with the Secure Act 2.0, and I don't know if we touched on this, but the question came in about this idea of employers finally starting to match into the Roth contributions. And the Secure Act 2.0 did allow employers to match up to $1,000 into the Roth retirement accounts finally, right? So that came up. So somebody had asked, is that something that they have to talk about with human resources? Is that something, the answer to that question is we don't know whether companies are actually going to start instilling that. Right. But I'm not sure that companies themselves, corporations went through and read this and knew about it, right? So I would definitely make sure that your human resource department is aware of that first and foremost, because a lot of questions came in about that and telling us, hey, well, our kids are they're still not getting matched in their Roth. Well, I believe that because it just happened. So it probably needs a little bit more time to percolate. But the reality is maybe they don't even know. So it's something that maybe should be brought up at the next meeting or the company meeting or whatever it might be. So I know that was did you have any other questions that came in last week?
Not that I can think of, but okay. Yeah, there were probably a couple more that pertain to the Secure Act.
Yeah, I forgot to take that out and look at those from last week. It's been such an overwhelming flood of them, and we're busy too. So, but I will have more, next week, obviously. Oh, there was a question about mutual funds that I remember. Somebody asked, I don't know if we've brought this up before. Somebody asked if mutual funds were so expensive, because we talk all the time about how much they cost internally. They asked if they're so expensive, why are they even there? Why are they good investment tools? Well, maybe I didn't do a good enough job of explaining this. If you invested in mutual funds while you were working, the nice thing about mutual funds, our families all use exchange traded funds because our families have the wealth now to buy that fund. Back in the day, though, they might have invested in mutual funds because they could put $50 in to the mutual fund and still get a piece of those types of investments. And I think that's the discrepancy there, is remembering that mutual funds are in fact pretty good investments while we're starting out and while we're building our wealth, just not so much in retirement, because now we can afford to buy in bulk rather than buying in pieces. Yeah, you've graduated. Yeah. So I don't know if we did a good enough job explaining that last week. So that's the difference. The difference really is the mutual fund gave you the opportunity to invest in pieces, right? But again, since they know that you're getting that opportunity, that's why they're a little bit more expensive. So if you're in retirement now, anything that you have mutual fund, you need to examine, you need to analyze and say, okay, can I just buy this in ETF form now and buy the whole thing, rather than, remember, my dad, Larry calls me the Costco of the finance world, because we bring everybody right to the investments rather than
cutting out the middleman.
That's right. Cut out the middleman. Okay. So once again, if you need information, if you need help, if you have questions, taxfreefortmyers.com, FORTMYERS.com. The book is there. They lied, The Real Cost of Your Retirement. We have a lot of great resources as well. And if you don't see something that you're looking for there, we're an email away. Just email us and I guarantee you we probably have it. If you want to know a number or a stat or something like that, just reach out. It's that simple. No sales pressure, just help. That's what we give people. So until we talk again, which will be next week, I'm looking forward to it, Lauren.
Me too.
You were very vocal this week. That was great.
Oh, yeah.
Gave me a chance to rest my voice. All right. Well, I'm Adam Bruno, and of course,
Lauren Trolson
with me, and we wish you all the best. And until we talk to you again, God bless.
Investment advisory services are offered through Evolution Wealth Management Incorporated, an investment advisor registered with the state of Florida. Registration does not imply any level of skill or training. Evolution Wealth Management's unique CRD number is 307644. You can obtain a copy of Evolution Wealth Management's firm brochure, Form ADV Part 2A, free of charge by visiting advisorinfo.sec.gov. Evolution Wealth Management offers investment advisory services only, where it is appropriately registered or exempt from registration, and only after clients have entered into an investment advisory agreement document confirming the terms of engagement and have been provided a copy of the firm's ADV Part 2A. Insurance services are provided by Evolution Retirement Services. Any guarantees mentioned are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and may be subject to restrictions, limitations, or early withdrawal fees, which vary by the issuer. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. You should consider the charges, risks, expense, and investment objectives carefully before entering a contract. This material has been prepared for informational purposes only and should not be construed as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect either transactions in securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice. This material is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for tax, legal, accounting, or other financial advice. Evolution Wealth Management and Evolution Retirement Services do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. You should consult your own tax, legal, and accounting advisors before engaging in any transaction. Evolution Wealth Management and Evolution Retirement Services are affiliated entities.